Before there was a Morgan dollar, before there was a silver eagle, before there was even a United States mint, America had to create its very first coins. Today, we often take money for granted. Every coin in our pocket carries a denomination, a design, and the confidence of a nation behind it. But in the years immediately following the American Revolution, none of that existed. The United States had won its independence, but it still faced an enormous challenge. How do you build a nation from scratch? One of the answers was surprisingly simple. You create your own money. In the late 18th century, daily commerce across America was anything but standardized. Spanish silver coins circulated widely throughout the colonies and remained common long after independence. Merchants accepted foreign coins from several nations. Colonial paper notes remained in circulation. In some regions, barter was still common. A farmer might trade crops for supplies. A craftsman might exchange labor for goods. The lack of a unified currency created confusion, inconsistency, and inefficiency. For a country hoping to establish itself among the world's powers, this was a serious problem. The Founding Fathers understood that political independence alone was not enough. Economic independence would be just as important. A nation needed its own financial system, its own standards, its own coinage. Among those who advocated for a national mint was Alexander Hamilton, the nation's first Secretary of the Treasury. Hamilton believed that a stable monetary system would strengthen commerce, encourage investment, and help unite the young republic. His recommendations would help shape the future of American coinage. In 1792, Congress passed one of the most important pieces of financial legislation in American history, the Coinage Act of 1792. The law officially established the United States Mint. It also created a decimal-based monetary system. Unlike anything used by most nations at the time, the dollar would become the standard unit of currency, subdivided into smaller denominations, a system Americans still use more than 2 centuries later. The act defined the coins that could be produced: copper cents, half cents, silver denominations, and gold coins. It was a bold step for a nation less than 20 years removed from declaring independence. Soon after the legislation passed, work began on what would become the first United States Mint. The facility was established in Philadelphia, then serving as the nation's capital. The original mint was far different from the highly automated facilities of today. The building was relatively modest. Equipment was limited. Many processes relied heavily on manual labor. Workers prepared dies by hand. Planchets were individually processed. Coins were struck using equipment that would appear primitive by modern standards. Yet despite these limitations, the mint represented something extraordinary. It was one of the first federal buildings ever constructed by the United States government. And within its walls, America would begin producing coins bearing its own identity. Among the earliest coins associated with this effort was the famous half-dime, pronounced dime. The half-dime was a small silver coin worth 5 cents. Many historians consider it the first federal coin struck under the authority of the United States government. The origins of the half-dime remain one of the most fascinating stories in American numismatics. According to historical accounts, silver for the coins may have come from Martha Washington's personal silverware. While historians continue to debate certain details, the story has become a legendary part of early American coinage. The half-dime was small, simple, and modest in appearance, but its importance cannot be overstated. For the first time, Americans could hold a coin created specifically for their new nation, a coin representing the United States rather than a foreign power. Its design featured liberty, a symbol that would become one of the defining themes of American coinage for generations. Liberty represented freedom, self-government, and the ideals that had fueled the revolution itself. Every coin carried those ideals into everyday commerce. Just a few years later, another milestone arrived, the 1794 half-dollar. These coins emerged during a period when the mint was still refining its operations. Production numbers were relatively small. Quality varied from coin to coin. Every piece required tremendous effort to manufacture. Unlike modern coin production, where millions of coins can be struck in a single day, early American coinage was a far slower process. Dies wore out quickly. Equipment required constant maintenance. Workers relied on skill and experience rather than automation. Each successful strike represented another step toward establishing confidence in America's monetary system. The designs themselves reflected the aspirations of a young nation. Liberty appeared prominently, not as a monarch, not as a ruler, but as an ideal, a symbol of the freedoms the new republic sought to preserve. These early coins were more than currency. They were statements, declarations of national identity, proof that the United States intended to stand on its own. As decades passed, American coinage evolved. The draped bust designs gave way to new artistic styles. Additional denominations entered circulation. Gold coinage expanded. Industrial technology improved production. Eventually, the nation would produce iconic coins, such as the Morgan dollar, Peace dollar, Walking Liberty half-dollar, and countless others. Yet all of those coins trace their lineage back to the decisions made during the 1790s, the foundation established by the Coinage Act, the work performed inside the first mint, and the determination of a young nation to create a monetary system of its own. Today, surviving examples of these early coins remain highly prized by collectors. They provide a direct connection to the founding generation, a tangible link to the earliest years of the American experiment. When collectors study these coins, they are not simply examining silver or copper. They are examining history. Each coin witnessed the nation's infancy. Each piece survived centuries of change. And each one tells a story about the birth of American coinage. As the United States approaches its 250th anniversary, interest in these historic designs continues to grow. Modern commemorative releases inspired by America's first coins allow a new generation of collectors to revisit this remarkable chapter of history. They remind us that every great institution has a beginning. Every tradition starts somewhere. And every coin struck today can trace its heritage back to those first efforts in Philadelphia more than 2 centuries ago. From the half-dime to the earliest half-dollars, from hand-operated presses to modern minting technology, the story of American coinage is ultimately the story of America itself, a nation built through vision, determination, and innovation. 250 years later, that story is still being written. And it all began with America's first coins. Inspired by the designs that helped define American coinage, these new strikes celebrate the history that collectors have treasured for generations.